On a summer day in June 1944, Isla and John Harris Sr. gathered with family on the porch of a stone house in Havensville, Kansas, to cry and talk about their son, Ernest Owen, while the children of the family went to the barnyard to sit on the wooden gate and talk about life and death. Known to one and all as EO, First Lieutenant Harris grew up in the small town of Havensville, Kansas. According to one of his cousins, he was a quiet, gentle soul who had it all together and was very much admired. He was traditional. He enjoyed life, but not to the point where you had to worry about him on a Saturday night. In the summers, he was the quintessential teenager who'd play ball and then gather with his cousins on the porch of his family's farmhouse to make homemade ice cream. After attending Havensville High School, where he played football and basketball, he was accepted into Kansas State University, where he graduated in 1942 as a member of the KSU swim team and the ROTC, immediately and voluntarily entering the U.S. Army as a second lieutenant and becoming the first in his family to join the war ringing out across the Atlantic. After entering the Army, First Lieutenant Harris attended parachute training at Fort Benning, Georgia, thus joining the acclaimed Screaming Eagles of the 101st Airborne Division. Paratroopers represented a new mode of warfare and therefore underwent intensive training. As they would be dropping individually behind enemy lines, they were trained to be self-reliant, skilled in navigation of enemy terrain, and equipped to use enemy weapons. In addition, each soldier was fully briefed on the mission at hand, knowledge usually reserved for those in the upper echelons of the force. First Lieutenant Harris was a member of the headquarters company of the 502nd Paratroop Infantry Regiment, and on D-Day, they were to drop from their C-47s just west of an enemy strong point near Saint-Martin-de-Vevey, and then join the rest of the division in the capture of Carentan, which would link up the Omaha and Utah beachheads. In the early hours of June 6, 1944, shortly after landing in France, First Lieutenant Harris, along with Major John P. Stopka and 13 other paratroopers, came to an alarming realization. They had been dropped in the wrong place. They decided to make their way to Raveneville, but encountered a stronghold of the enemy in the vicinity of Marmion. Taking orders to secure a right flank, First Lieutenant Harris took 2 men and attacked a garrison, making so much noise doing so that the enemy soldiers believed he had a small army with him. 6 enemy soldiers were killed, 24 taken prisoner. He then took the 2 men and attacked a nearby trench, jumping, shouting, firing his rifle, and generally making quite a scene, according to Major Stopka. The other 2 men crawling behind him were at first rather timid and afraid, but eventually were so inspired by the actions of First Lieutenant Harris that they joined in, and 10 minutes later, with around 8 enemy soldiers dead, they had taken the trench, 1 pillbox, 2 machine guns, and several machine pistols. First Lieutenant Harris survived and fought for another 5 days in Normandy, but died during a fixed bayonet charge led by Lieutenant Colonel Robert G. Cole in the capture of Carentan on June 11, 1944. He was 23. First Lieutenant Harris was no ordinary soldier, and that is because there is no such thing as an ordinary soldier. For all the details of units and divisions and military strategy that went into making D-Day a success, a true picture of what happened here 73 years ago is incomplete without the understanding that a man from Kansas jumped out of a plane and into a country he had never seen before to put his life at great risk to free people he had never met. First Lieutenant Harris and his fellow soldiers flew over the channel en route to their drop zone on the morning of D-Day. Stretched below them was the largest naval armada ever assembled in the history of the world. But wars are not won by armadas, or ships, or guns. They are won by individuals. Individuals who leave behind families and friends to fight for something greater. Individuals with the courage to place service before self. Individuals whose stories are often not told. First Lieutenant Harris was one such individual, and I am proud to say he is silent no more. With knowledge of First Lieutenant Harris's actions on D-Day, one cannot question the power of his gun, his guts, or his gumption. He embodied the ideal of a soldier with a complete disregard for his own life. He did not, however, have a disregard for life itself. To truly illustrate what kind of a soldier First Lieutenant Harris was, I would like to share an excerpt of a testimony of his actions written by Major Stopka, his commanding officer. It reads as follows. During the night of 6 June 1944, Lieutenant Harris did not sleep nor take time to get any rest for himself by his continual checking of the men on the outposts, bringing them ammunition, food, water, and even manning their guns while they came back to the garrison to get a break. For his heroism in battle on June 6, 1944, First Lieutenant Harris was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. First Lieutenant Harris, from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you.